What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Slipstream, where we talk everything about motorsport and racing. I'm Ash.
I'm Trey.
I'm Sachet.
And today we're getting into the MotoGP and how its structure has changed over the years. Okay, so it was founded back in 1949 and raced for 5 separate categories. We have the 125cc, the 250cc, the 350cc, 500cc, and sidecars. Because the 500cc bikes are more powerful in racing terms and provide the two-stroke engine method for optimal powertrain, it was the premier class in the league up until 23 years ago, dominating the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Regulation changes in the early 2010s allowed for the 1000cc bikes, which contributed to the top current speeds in the league being 340 kilometers per hour, which is relatively similar to Formula One, yet slower than the IndyCar. And this has been proven in many, social media stints with MotoGP bikes racing against Formula One cars. It's really entertaining to watch.
Yep, and a couple of in-depth analyses.
A typical MotoGP season races at 20 to 22 venues, with 2 races being held at each venue each year, a sprint race and a Grand Prix. The season opener happens at either Thailand or Qatar, but traditionally concludes on Catalan grounds in mid-November. Friday consists of a first free practice session in the morning, followed by Saturday the second free practice, and followed promptly by a qualifying, and then the sprint race that afternoon. And then Sunday you have the warm-up session that happens a few hours before the Grand Prix. And then points are handed out for the top 15, with 25 going to the winner and 1 going to 15th for the Grand Prix format. The top 9 get points in the sprint race, with, again, 12 going to the winner and 1 going to 9th.
And of course, because this is a different structure, a different organization, and a different automobile on which they're racing, there are 11 teams in total for the full season grid: Aprilia Racing, BK8 Gresini Racing, Ducati Lenovo Team, Honda HRC Castrol, LCR Honda, Monster Energy Yamaha, Petromania Enduro VR46 Racing, Prima Parmac Yamaha Racing, and 2 KTM Racing teams, Tech 3 and Factory Racing, both funded and sponsored by Red Bull, and of course, Trackhouse MotoGP. And there's also a bit of an HRC test team that examines all the new components on track every season, including with fueling, front wheel, back wheel, side pods, powertrain, everything that a motorcycle has and consists of. And of course, Germany's Stefan Bradl and Japan's Takaki Nakagami, they both race in those test cars.
And testing is solely limited for the test drivers, as in the season, as in the in-season riders, and they must work with their engineers and analysts to collect as much data as possible.
And of course, there are manufacturer ranks when it comes to how much testing each manufacturer is allocated the season, which subsequently and consequently affects the teams in that testing session as well as their performance throughout the rest of the season. So as of 2024, based off of the standings of last year's season in MotoGP, Rank A belongs to Ducati, who actually have been on a bit of a dominant stretch ever since the beginning of the decade. Of course, last decade from 2013 to 2018 and even parts of 2019, it was Honda who was on this dominant stretch.
Side.
Unfortunately, they had such a downfall, and Honda, the original manufacturers, they are like the automobile gods of not just Japan, but the Eastern Front and parts of the Western Front.
Parts of the world, they are the most dominant
economically, race terms, and even socially and marketing, everything of that sorts. But Ducati Rank A, that means they get only 170 tires manufactured per season. Rank B belongs to Aprilia in some cases, where they get 990 tires, but at times they will also belong in Rank C, so it can kind of be split up depending on how well and how bad the teams did. But Aprilia and KTM primarily belong in Rank C, where they get 220 tires, and of course Yamaha and Honda, ironically enough, some of the most funded and highest grossing GDP manufacturers and companies, belong at the bottom rank in Rank D with 260 tires. So the higher you rank, the less of a liability you tend to be in the sport.
Oh, absolutely. And especially in the MotoGP, I have kind of been following it, and I actually saw the shift from a dominant Honda team to a dominant Ducati team. And so the reason they are lacking in performance is because 2 out of the 5 Honda manufactured drivers this season are ranked dead last. And because both the Márquez brothers, who we will get into a little later, have finished above the top 8 for 2 consecutive years.
And there are 21 slick tires and 10 wet tires that are allocated to each team per season, 12 liters of fuel allowed for sprint races, and 22 liters of fuel allowed for Grand Prix. And all riders are given, of course, a spare tire in both of the qualifying sessions. Remember that there are only Q1 and Q2 sessions.
Right.
There's no Q3 session.
Yes.
And there is actually a bit of a different approach that the league has to applying penalties. So instead of doing a traditional pit stop, because there's not really much change on the car except for maybe the I don't know, maybe if you had to tweak up a couple of components with the axles or with the mid-body, there isn't a lot of pit stops to be doing, so the penalty that drivers face is taking an extended route on the track.
Yes, I think you mean the bike. You said car, but we all understood what you meant. But yeah, of course, the pit stop is kind of minimal. So the common penalty the drivers face is taking, again, as you said, the extended route.
And of course, that loses them an average of 2 to 4 seconds, so a mean of 3 seconds per each of these scenic routes taken by the bikers.
Right.
And Sacha, if you want to break us down on the Márquez brothers, who are actually our main calm down.
Excited.
Calm down. Sacha, bring us out.
Yeah. So the 2 Márquez brothers, as we know them as, Mark and Alex Márquez, have had many achievements over their MotoGP careers.
Great enterprise,
having a lot of these victories over many races throughout the past, 10 or 12 years, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. It's been ever since they started in MotoGP, and even beforehand when they were racing in junior bikes. I mean, just take us down some of the achievements so far this season.
This season, with pleasure. So, some of the achievements they've had as of right now include, let's see, taking home a 1-2 finish in currently a quarter of the Grand Prix this year, having scored the most points for Ducati in the Manufacturers' Championship in history. And
only Pecco Bagnaia and Franco Morbidelli, who ironically enough also race under the manufacturer Ducati, they have played their side roles in elevating this
And Bagnaia and Morbidelli are 2 drivers for Ducati?
Yeah, well, they're for Ducati, but they're for different teams.
What do you mean by that?
He currently races with the Ducati Lenovo team. Mm-hmm. So he does race with the Ducati Lenovo team, but I believe that the Márquez brothers race with Aprilia.
I see. Okay, so with the Márquez brothers racing for the Ducati Aprilia, they currently have over 10 titles in their entire career in motorcycling from their starts in Moto3 up until now, the most from any sibling pair.
Indeed.
Definitely. And Sachi, you want to continue us?
Absolutely. And their dominance has been pretty clear early on, even from 2014 when they became the first and so far the only sibling pair to win titles in their respective leagues at the same time. And although Alex Márquez only scored 1 podium in the 2024 season at the German Grand Prix, the pair's constructor in Ducati was never in any imminent danger of losing the Manufacturers' Championship. Far from it, in fact, as only South Africa's Brad Binder and Spain's Pedro Acosta, both from the KTM, threatened this chance, but even then, it was the first half of the season that threat dissipated. So it's clear that the 2 Márquez brothers are on the up and up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And let's just break down what the Márquez brothers have been able to achieve.
Oh, yeah, let's.
You can start us off with Mark.
Yeah, so Marc Márquez and Alex Márquez are some of my favorite MotoGP drivers. And so Marc Márquez was born Feb 17th, 1993 in Spain. He had a career debut in Moto3 at the 2008 Portuguese Grand Prix in Portimao. 2009, he achieved his first pole position at the French Grand Prix at the age of 18. I think that's
actually 16.
Oh, I'm sorry, 16.
Yeah, 16.
And going on to that, 2019, he had his first win and further victories at Silverstone, Assen, and Barcelona in the next 3 races. And that made Márquez the youngest rider to win 4 successive races.
Just in 2010.
Just in 2010. 2011, he upgraded to Moto 2 with Monlau Competición. He won 6 of 7 mid-season races, but narrowly lost the title to Stefan Bradl.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if we look at this research that I've collected, it can be attributed to a couple of penalties and a couple of faults of his own, some of them not of his own. He failed to follow the administrative protocol multiple times before races, and also failed an eye exam, I believe, that took him out of one of the races, and he practiced some pretty unsportsmanlike conduct with, ironically enough, Stefan Bradl.
Yep.
So he may have started off as a little bit cocky, but at least he had the skill to back up his ego, which he didn't even really wear much on his sleeve. He was just kind of like having it peek over the background.
Oh, yes. Going into 2012, he had a strong season, but again fell short of the championship after penalties and close defeats, which, he didn't take to heart as much because he is so young. And so going into the 2013 decade to 2023, MotoGP with Repsol Honda, he spent 10 years with that. Rookie champion and youngest ever in the Premier class. He won 6 titles, 59 wins, and over 100 podiums over this decade. Imagine that.
Yeah, and let me just mention, I don't think that anybody in their rookie year has been able to win the title in MotoGP up until him. No one's ever even done it in Formula One. The closest that 2 drivers have come to doing so are Jacques Villeneuve with Williams in 1997 and Hamilton with McLaren in 2008.
Absolutely. And so Marc Márquez had a bit of an injury in the early 2020s that I actually kind of remember a bit, and he broke his right humerus in the 2020 season opening Spanish Grand Prix. And the training accident, that's what it was a training accident. It caused impaired vision and a minor concussion. He missed the last 2 rounds of the 2021 season. And then going into 2022,
this was a disastrous mid-season stint.
This was quite devastating. He crashed 3 times hard enough at the Grand Prix of Indonesia to be deemed too unfit to race, and has had surgery on his upper arm that rotated the bone 30
by about 30 degrees. I don't know what it was from, but it must have been some long-lasting injury that caught up to him.
And suffered yet another concussion that impaired his vision once again. And that's why you don't really see Marc Márquez after 2023, and actually has been on the come-up in 24 and 25. So 24, he left Repsol Honda and joined Gresini Ducati, and returned to consistent podium finishes where people have been noticing him quite recently, and especially in 2025, where he's been leading the championship and scored his first Grand Slam in Aragon since the same venue in 2024.
Of course, and look, we cannot even begin to discredit the likes of Alex Márquez.
Oh, absolutely.
He is probably just about as good and could carry up the reins, despite him being, ironically enough, the older brother of the group. So he was born just about a year before Marc Márquez, April 23rd, in 1996, in Sevilla, Spain, and he was born Alex Márquez Alenta, and he is a Grand Prix motorcycle rider as well. He became the world champion in 2019 in the Moto 2 World Championship, and before that, won in 2014, which was kind of the dominance that we were going back to when we were starting off with the Márquez brothers. So he started off in the CEV 125cc Buckler Series. And, of course, in 2015 to 2019, racing Moto 2 with Mark VDS team, he had a lot of steady improvements, and he became the World Championship at the end. And then in 2020, he was actually promoted to MotoGP, so it was kind of a tale of 2 brothers.
Exactly.
While one was beginning his could-have-been downfall with a slew of injuries, including one that probably could have ended his life with all the concussions and stuff. The other one was on the comeuppance, with being promoted to the most prestigious league of motorcycling.
I find that discrepancy in the early 2020s absolutely crazy. When I was seeing that on social media, I was genuinely at odds at which brother to support
Yeah,
or
of
to
course.
root for.
Honestly, both, because let me just continue with Alex Marquez. He was a pretty consistent backmarker, and I don't mean that in a good way, but also not in a super duper bad way. He was just kind of in the background. You really didn't see much of him. He was kind of like an ensemble member.
Yeah.
He finished 16th and 17th in 2020 and 2021, made a couple of gains up to 14th, but then in 2023, he actually made a pretty solid gain up until 11th, I believe, and then 8th place in 2024 when he finally moved to Gresini to join his younger brother, Mark. And then, of course, he is currently second right behind his brother, and if you want to break down, I want you to give me your insight on the chemistry between these two brothers, because we have never seen a family pair this strong, brute, and stark.
Yes. So actually, we were just discussing this before.
Like right before recording.
And
Indeed.
we have never seen such a sibling duo perform this well in any motorsport ever. Okay, I feel that many sibling duos are never at odds, never rivals, but they are always, pushed to the background. One is always performing better than the other. You have the Leclerc brothers, where you have Charles Leclerc always consistently performing in Formula One, whereas you see Arthur Leclerc kind of stuck in Formula 3. And you have the Busch brothers in NASCAR, who are aggressive
a couple of hotheads. The F word is their favorite word. Never leaves their mouths.
And so you always have this kind of discrepancy between these siblings. And to see this McLaren Type 1-2 in the MotoGP championship, I think it's incredible, and it's really entertaining to watch these two brothers actually go at it and have that, am I going to get first or are you going to get first? And it's really fun to watch every Sunday.
You are a bold young lady for saying this is a McLaren-like bond. You're very bold for saying that.
I mean, it's true, is it not? I feel that McLaren has a consistent 1-2 this entire season so far.
I call it bold because think about how the media pushes things.
I do see that.
It's always the media.
Okay, so you have a positive Márquez brothers 1-2, and then you have a bit of a negative McLaren. But I think you understand.
Yeah, of course.
The analogy I'm trying to make
but I feel
here.
like F1 fans are pretty aggressive when it comes to trying to push the narrative of rivalries, and they do so without even thinking in hindsight how it could affect the chemistry between the drivers. Just bombarding social media constantly, even though these drivers have good PR training, it's just not. But that's neither here or there, and that's for another topic.
Yes, I do think that the Márquez brothers have gotten positive feedback from fans, and I think they should just be happy about it.
It's not just their fan base. It's how they present themselves. I pull up CNN Sports article when they were talking about motorcycling after a pretty good performance, or I think it's just a general interview. This is what Alex said. When you're enjoying it, you're in your fast, it's easy. When you're on the bike and you're thinking a lot, you're slow. When you're on a bike and you don't need to change your riding style a lot and you can just build speed really fast, and this is what the 2024 bike has given me. It's better in all the areas. It's just so much easier for me when you're enjoying it. It's fast.
Yeah, that's the other thing about the Márquez brothers, that in media, they are very articulate and, express themselves in a way that makes them very likable, despite them being at the top of the leaderboard, where some might look down upon them, and not everyone tends to like a consistent winner.
True.
But that's what makes them so interesting, because they are so likable in their media presence. It also helps their case that these two brothers are fine. They are very handsome men.
Yeah.
I think that's part of their fan base on social media.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. That's kind of debatable, but okay, you know what? No. They're hot. I'm a straight guy, and if they're hot, they're hot. I admit it. I'm trying not to. Okay, whatever.
No, yeah, but I'm just gonna continue on the Márquez glaze, because not only is he leading the championship over his brother by 175 plus points, but he could also take home the title with the most races to go down in sports history, claiming it with 4 races to go in Indonesia.
Which,
so
as we all know, is literally a week from now.
It's a week from now, so tune in, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he claimed his first win at his home race in Catalunya. At Aragon in over 1,000 days. So he also got his first Grand Slam at that event. And since that exact same race in 2024. Also, the first Grand Slam finish since the end of the 2023 season by the next best driver behind the Márquez brothers, Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia. And then, of course, Mark himself, 11 wins and 14 podiums so far this season. Alex, 2 wins and 9 podiums. They're expected to reach both in the double digits in terms of podiums by the end of the season, and making it another, in hindsight, elements of sibling dominance. And they could score probably a record ratio of a 75% win rate between these two if they just continue dominating the season in this format. And this is... Do you want to cover this one? Or
actually, in the opening race of the season in Thailand, both the Márquez brothers clinched a double podium in the Grand Prix format. Okay, that is something that's never been achieved before in MotoGP history. They made history at Thailand. And they proceeded to do this in a second consecutive time in Argentina 2 weeks later, a third time at Silverstone, and a fourth time in Germany. Just let that sink in.
And of course, there's another quote from an article called Cycle World, and I believe this is something that a journalist said.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that Alex is fast, but with Mark strong and riding the same bike, the younger can benefit from his brother's advice, becoming an he's an 8-time world champion. I think he's benefiting from his older brother quite well.
Absolutely.
But anyways, continuing, becoming an uncomfortable rival for Pecco Bagnaia. They've already become uncomfortable rivals. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Curiously enough, Alex could also become the faithful ally for Mark and to support him in the fight for the title. They are underplaying these guys. I don't like how they're underplaying these guys.
I don't like that either. No.
The number 9 that would equal him to the legendary Valentino Rossi. Okay, that's true.
That is true. They are Valentino Rossi, if you don't know, is a legendary MotoGP rider, but having that comparison to the Márquez brothers is absolutely accurate in my opinion.
Exactly, of course. And let's just go on with some of the dominant performances
by the Márquez brothers. So even at the U.S., Spanish, and French Grand Prix, where Marc DNF'd and fell to the back markers, he still scored a top 5 spot in the sprint races on all those weekends. So Bagnaia was the only other multiple race winner from the season. And Johan Zarco and Marc Bezzecchi are the only ones who have ever won a race outside of the leading 3 in this championship. And Zarco did pull the longest win gap so far in the season, 19.9 seconds at the French Grand Prix, his home race. Now, thanks to the Márquez brothers, the dominant performances for their team, Ducati have been overall the winning team for 85% of events so far this season, with only Aprilia, Honda, Gresini beating them out of the spring season and August. Marc Márquez has also achieved something that no other rider has done, a 6-win race streak over 2/3 of the summer.
That's correct. He won 6 out of 7 races over the summer season, and I believe the only race that he missed out on winning was either Silverstone, and it was Silverstone.
Silverstone.
And then, of course, that 6 out of 7 race win streak kind of came to a bit of a faulty end. I think it was Germany, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. But obviously, again, amazing dominance, and let's just check out what some of the media has had to say about these guys, because it is absolutely amazing. So going back to the CNN article, it says, while Alex has had lows not compared to the ones his brothers face, badly broken right arm in the 2020 season needed seemingly endless surgeries after Mark attempted to return to racing too soon and aggravated the injury. And it says that Alex had a front row seat to all of this, which is pretty unfortunate. So let's go over this. How do you think the psychology of Alex Márquez had been affected when he had to witness his brother go through all these sorts of methods of treatment? How do you think it changed his mindset of racing?
So I do think that these two brothers have become a sibling duo in the past 5 years after Mark's injury. And the earlier CNN quote that you mentioned of Alex being a supporting pillar to Mark has, I think, recently been developed. So having Mark's injury in the 2020s was kind of new for Alex to process, if you understand.
And
so
almost kind of have to cope with.
Yeah, so
Indeed.
after that incident, I feel like they really bonded and had a duo form in this sport. So if you have been following the championship so far, Bagnaia, has not been able to pierce this duo, and I feel that bond after Mark's injury is the cause for this barrier that Bagnaia is not able to pierce.
Of course, but Bagnaia is a great qualifier. Of course, he just gets caught up in a couple of mid-race incidents that drags him down to the bottom of the field, and there's no apportioning blame to him directly because, again, he was a great racer and he had a chance to be a pretty promising threat. Well, excuse me, I shouldn't use the word threat. A pretty promising contender for the title up against the Márquez brothers, provided how testing played out with Ducati being a completely dominant force. But I just feel like circumstance has prevented him from taking these steps. But continuing on your point with how Alex's psychology has been affected for the better, you kind of hit it with the nail on the head with what this article says. It says, when Mark decided to have further surgery on his arm, it was partly to save his career, but also simply to enable him to live with less pain.
And I actually want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you think that this duo is a strategy for Ducati to put pressure on Bagnaia? Do you think that Alex is acting as a barrier between Bagnaia and Mark? And we always know that Mark and Alex have had a 1-2 so far in this season. So do you think that Alex is acting as a kind of protection around Mark to consistently place first and have him block Bagnaia and keep him in third?
Well, if it's a strategy from the team, then it's very, very smart, but I feel like it ruins the genuine sportsman-like connection that these drivers have if these teams are trying to propagate something against each other.
Which is the kind of devil's advocate or like the controversial opinion that's been floating around in my mind. I'm like, is this a type of strategy that they're actually working out rather than the actual sport?
Well, I mean, when push comes to shove, no relationships on or off track are really going to be affected because this is one of the most genuine leagues of sport, and I feel like it's very genuine because in comparison to single-seaters with cockpits, this is a single-seater with open air. You're on a motorcycle, so you are always at risk for death like 10 times more. And I feel like they not only take safety precautions to protect themselves and their bodies and their health, but also to protect the other drivers around them and make sure that they don't get any life-ending injuries or life-ending careers just because somebody decided to tap somebody else's rear axle, you know?
Yeah, and we were also discussing this before that when you're driving in a different format, you're driving a car, but here you have to be more one with your bike. It has to be a part of you. And there was this really exciting move that I think Alex.
Yeah, it was Alex
pulled.
Márquez back in 2019. So this is still when he was in his Moto2 days, just kind of wrapping up his dominance in that era. He, I believe, was approaching the main straight and was contending for the win at that point. And he was about to get straight up flung off of his bike off of the very front, and it could have ended in a season-ending injury. But instead, he softly and slowly pirouetted to the ground and just rode the ground with his soles before eventually getting himself back onto his bike. So, case in point, the Márquez brothers have an insane history of saves. It is absolutely amazing how they have been able to not only perfect their craft in ways that make them completely dominant drivers, but in ways that completely innovate how riders cultivate themselves in the sport.
Absolutely. And whether that be luck or just pure talent, I don't know. You watch
or just
for
pure
yourself.
muscle memory.
Pure muscle memory. Yeah. Like, and I mean, let's kind of. go into how the media. So we've gone into how the media portrays the Márquez brothers.
Yes.
How do you think the Márquez brothers do off track?
I think they have, your regular sibling duo relationship off track. I haven't been keeping up with the politics of them off track as much. Yeah. So would you want to fill me in on that?
Okay, so I can't fill you in with the politics off the track, but I can fill you in with the family life and tell you how that dynamic has been nothing but affirmative to them and their careers from the very beginning. So they were heavily supported both financially and emotionally by their dad.
Oh, yeah.
Which, honestly, now that I think about it, he is definitely one of the greatest dads to athletes, any athlete, parent, or single athlete of all time. He told them that he just wanted them to do what makes them happy, never give up, follow their dreams, and have strong affirmations about themselves because they know their worth. Mm-hmm. I know that's pretty much the bare minimum of what a parent should be telling their child, but can you just believe how much that affirmation has brought them? And can you believe, I can't even begin to just comprehend how proud their dad must be in themselves. I would be giving back to them every single day if I got to that position.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that about wraps up this episode of MotoGP. Mm-hmm. Make sure you tune into the Slipstream next time where we'll be talking about just about whatever we can find. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you tune to us on Spotify as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on our Instagram page.
And I'll see you guys next time. I'm Ash.
I'm Trey.
I'm Sachet.
And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.